Okay, I went ahead and removed the other 4 lug nuts. I just put those over here on the lift. You know, if you don't have a lift, you could do this in your driveway with some jack stands, a floor jack. I would recommend park and brake, and also probably chalking the tires just to be careful. All right, so now what we got to do is we got to remove this cover to expose the bottom crank pulley. So it's got 2 10mm head bolts in there. Take my 3/8 here. Okay, I'm going to take this cover, I'm going to put it down in line with everything else, with the bolts with it. And now you can see, here's a crank pulley, here's a power steering pulley. See if I can get you in there so you can look. Now right there is a power steering pulley. This right here is a power steering pump. Now, this right here is a 12mm head. So I'm going to use the socket to get that. I'm going to loosen that up. I'm going to pull down on this belt, and that will get that belt off. The first belt we took off for the AC and the alternator, they run on the outside of this crank pulley. And then the power steering pulley runs on the inside. Once I get that crank pulley off of there, I'll try to show it to you so that way you completely understand. So for right now, I need to get this 12 right here loose. So let me do that. May need a extension. I'm hoping the 3/8 has enough oomph to it. I might have to get the half drive. Looks like we're going to get the half drive. Okay, got it broke loose. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull on the bottom of this pulley, on the belt. You could also take, if you had a pry bar, you could pry up on this. Just make sure it's in there a little bit. But you kind of pry up on that, which I might end up doing just to make it a little easier. So I'm just going to put it right here on that, kind of pivot on that lower motor mount pulley, and just kind of pick up on it like that. And now I can fish this out of here, and we're going to examine the belt here. And actually, it doesn't look too bad. We may have replaced these recently. I can't remember. But it doesn't really look that bad. I'm going to hang this one in the mirror as well. Okay, now we got to get this big guy off. And I can't remember. That's probably a 22. Let's see here. .22 socket for the crank pulley. Usually on Toyotas, you can get lucky, and this pulley will come off without any special tools. Let's hopefully I'll get lucky. Okay. Now, before we put this back on, first of all, it's very important to tighten these. Another thing is, we really need to put just a little bit of Loctite on these threads. It doesn't take much. Just a little bit of Loctite to make sure this thing doesn't back out. I've had some bad experiences, unfortunately, in the past where I was not tightening these tight enough, and I had a couple of comebacks on me. As a shame to say it, but hey, it's the truth. I wasn't tightening enough. I'm just putting both my hands back here. All right. Whew. So what I did was I took my hands and I gripped it like right here and right here. I just try to give it an even pull off of there. I was able to slide it off of there. Okay. So there's my harmonic balancer. And now I'm going to work on getting the lower timing cover off. It's got think it's 3 10 millimeters. So what I'm going to have to do, I'll get my pry bar back out. We got to take the power steering pulley and push it down so I can expose that 10 millimeter. I got 3 10 millimeters, one here, and one there. We may have to loosen this up in order to get that other one. So we'll see what happens. So I'm going to go with a 10 millimeter swivel in this. And looks like I'm going to need my long extension. I got my long extension so that way I'm away from it. A lot of times people like to, work up real close to something like that, and no, you're going to want an extension. I'll grab a magnet too. Give me a lower timing cover. Bolt off there. I noticed that one was caked in fresh engine oil, which leads me to believe that the cam seals are leaking. Okay, I was able to sneak in there without disturbing that power steering pump with a swivel and a long 10. Take my bolt over here. All right, so let's see if I can get this off of here now. I think it come off. All right. Now, if you look at all that. So engine oil is, look right here, if you see that. You do not want your timing belt on this vehicle soaked in engine oil. That's not a good thing. So we're going to sell a customer new cam and crank seals, which I already did. All right, now behind the timing cover, get this little swash plate thing, and just kind of note how it goes on there. So it came off like that. I'm going to put it back on the correct way. You can see like the teeth from the crank pulley are kind of shown there. So it goes on there like that. I'm going to put that in the bottom timing cover. All right. The next thing we're going to do now is we're going to work on getting that. We got to put it back down now, and we got to get that motor mount out of there, and then we'll set the crank and cams to the top dead center before we remove the belt. We're going to talk a lot about that. Okay, so let me put this thing down, and I'll show you how to get that motor mount out. Okay, so what I have done, there's a nut on the bottom side here that I took off, and it's the nut that's riding on the stud. Okay, so just a 12 millimeter nut. We broke it loose earlier, but I never actually fully took it off. The next thing you're going to want to do is grab your quarter drive ratchet with a E8 inverted torque. So it looks like that right there. And it's a size E8. What you're going to do is you're going to put that on this shaft right here. And you're going to turn that shaft, and you're going to hope and pray that that stud doesn't break from the Torx. I usually have pretty good luck. If it does break, then now you're getting a pair of pliers, and you're taking some pliers and try to put on there to make it turn off. All right, so it turned out of there. So I got the nut off the bottom side. I already took the bolt off that went right here earlier, and now I'm going to pull this stud and this bottom bolt loose. I'm going to rock it up. If you see, I removed the stud and just finagle it here. And I'm taking it out. I'm trying to go real slow so you can see how I'm doing it. And voila. And that is how you get that out of there. You're going to have to take that loose. I guess you could, if you really wanted to, you could take the other motor mount loose and maybe jack the engine up. To me, that's a lot harder. I'd rather take, of course, this thing comes out easier, that out. All right, so I'm going to set this aside. Again, just kind of put in line with everything else, so that way everything else goes back together smoothly. and we are going to now turn the crank until our timing marks line up with the top. There's a timing mark on this pulley, have to find it, and it's going to line up with that mark right there. And I'm going to try to show you guys and explain to you the foolproof way to put on a timing belt. So let me get everything ready. I'm probably going to use a pretty nice size adjustable wrench, like probably this 12-inch adjustable wrench of mine, to turn the engine. And so I'll probably be using this guy right here to turn the engine. And once I get my marks lined up, I'll come back and we'll talk about it. Alrighty, I used a adjustable wrench to turn. I put it like right here, and I was careful not to scratch up the crank snout there. I turn it with that a little bit, but then ended up using a 17 wrench up there on the other camshaft to finish it out. What you're looking for, though, is the first one you need to line up is that dot with that little mark on the casting, right here on the crankshaft. So you got to line up that dot with that mark, okay? Then we'll come down and line up the timing belt with that mark right here. If you look right here, see that little guy right there? That's for the timing belt to line up to. So first things first, let's line the engine up, then we'll talk about lining the timing belt up. And let's go up top and make sure the camshafts are lined up. Okay, now we're looking at the camshaft for the front. And if you look real close, there is a mark at the top right here. It's a little kind of line right here. That line has to line up with this divot you see right here where my finger is. They have to line up. So make sure that your crank pulley is lined up first, and then come check your camshafts. And if you have to turn the engine another 180 degrees, so be it. Because what's going to happen is that line will be down here. So just keep turning until you get it. The same is true for the camshaft in the rear. Remember, this is a V6 engine. You have a camshaft here and a camshaft back there. Now you may be asking yourself or asking me, how do I tell if that camshaft, if the mark is correct? There's really no way to show you on the video, but I'll just tell you this: get yourself a mirror. They're pretty inexpensive. You're going to need a mirror. You're going to need a flashlight in order to see that, so that way you can line it up and make sure that you're on point. All right, the next thing we're going to do, we're going to grab some white out. We're going to mark this timing belt, and we're going to have a little conversation about it to make sure you don't screw up. All right, a couple of things I wanted to mention to you. First of all, I'm using the Dayco timing belt kit. In this kit, you get not only the timing belt, you get the water pump. You're going to get the idler pulley, the tensioner pulley, the tensioner itself, water pump gasket, and I think that's pretty much it. Anymore, when anybody asks me to do a timing belt on anything, I pretty much refuse to do just a timing belt anymore, because what if that tensioner or idler pulley seizes up? Like let's say I put a timing belt in a car, and then 4,000 miles later that tensioner seizes up. Guess what's going to do to that brand new timing belt? It's going to damage it, right? So I prefer to do the whole kit. I do not like doing just the timing belt. Timing belts are a big job, as you guys have seen in this video. This video is taking forever. All right. Dayco did a good job. So they actually marked the timing belt for you, which is awesome. Not all timing belts are marked. The only thing I would give a little critique on, okay, well, I think they did a little bit, I think they did okay. So this line right here is a little bit different looking than the other two lines. If you get a belt from Toyota, you'll have like two straight lines, and that represents your camshafts. And if you have a dotted line, then that'll represent your crankshaft. But yeah, they did a pretty good job labeling this. We just got to figure out which line's what, and we'll go from there. All right, so what I did, in case you get a belt that is not labeled, because not all timing belts are labeled, and I don't know why, but in case you don't get one, I want to kind of talk to you about what we're doing here. So this right here was the mark, if you can see, let's bring it a little closer here. Talk about the crankshaft here. This is the mark that we saw underneath, where we lined the crankshaft up with the, actually that's where the oil pump is, the oil pump cover to get it up and down. This mark right here, you see here, this is the mark where the timing belt needs to set. And then if you look at the camshafts, there's a mark. This right here is a camshaft. This is the front cam. That's the rear cam. This is your water pump. This is your tensioner pulley, and this is your crank. Okay. The front cam, what I did was I marked the old belt before I take it off. And I'm going to show you why. If you do it this way, it's almost a guarantee that you pretty much cannot screw this up. The timing belt has teeth, right? I didn't draw them on here, but it's got teeth, okay? And what I did was I marked where the valley was in one of those teeth. And now I can count this way and see how many teeth there are between this camshaft and that camshaft. I can see how many teeth there are between this camshaft and the crankshaft. I'm going to put a mark on the timing belt. Now go down here, put a mark on the crank. I can go over here, count all these teeth, and put a mark on the timing belt there. I don't have to do it on this one because, like I said, the timing belt was already marked for us, so that's really good. But not all timing belts are marked. So make sure you mark your timing belt before you remove it from the engine. Kind of show you what I did. So right here, you're going to see that there's a mark that I did with whiteout, and I put an arrow in there. Now the reason I put an arrow in there is because that is signifying to me that that is the arrow facing the front. It's facing the front of the engine. That's just how my brain works. It's just how I did it. I'm just explaining to y'all. Y'all have your own way. You can put a smiley face, you can put a star, whatever. But that right there, that arrow signifies to me that that is on the front camshaft. Now the rear camshaft, I marked it too. Obviously you can't see it from here yet. Wait till I get the belt off. But I'll just put a line for that one. And then for the crankshaft, I put a mark on that too. But then I put like a another little line on there to signify that that's the one for the crankshaft. All right, so let's loosen up this pulley and get this thing off of here. I'll show you how to do that real quick. Okay, well, it turns out I need to remove this power steering pump bracket. So I got my 12 millimeter, my half drive impact extension, and now I had to take this bracket off. I'm just going to put that up here on the lift. And now I got to get this tensioner off. We got to get this power steering pump to move out of the way. So, this job requires the van to go up and down a few times. It requires the power steering pump to move around a few times. So I'm going to take off the lower. This right here is your tensioner. Take that one off. Okay. And now I got to get to the top tensioner. I think I can get in there. I don't think I got to remove the power steering pump, but I might. Looks like I might have to remove the power steering pulley, which I don't remember doing that before, but that's okay. We can overcome if we have to. I think I can sneak it out of there. I'm going to fiddle with this just for a minute, and I'll let you know what I come up with the power steering pulley. Just a little tech tip for you. Got to mess with this thing. I think what you're supposed to do is remove the top one first, then the bottom one. So what I did was I took my pry bar and I just kind of pushed up on that on the bottom side of the tensioner, and I took a quarter drive ratchet with a long extension and a quarter drive 12 millimeter and took it out of there. Now I'm going to take this tensioner loose, which I already did. So here's my tensioner. And I want to take this out and I'm going to listen to it. Got a little gravel in there, not actually the worst I've ever heard. All right, now I have room. That's my tensioner pulley, and this right here is your tensioner itself. The kit comes with a new one. You should always replace it. Never reuse it. Okay, I'm going to set these here in my toolbox, my tool cart here. And now we're going to take, sorry, you've seen the back of my head a lot. There is a 10 millimeter bolt right here that's kind of holding the belt on right now. So this is your last chance to back out or, check all your marks and everything. So I'm going to take this 10 off here. Actually, I'm just going to not take it off. Just going to take it loose, let it flop to the side. I've already got all my marks. Time belt's off. Now we're married to it. Okay? So we're going to let it down, and we're going to take it off out from the top. So let's do that. One thing I wanted to make note of, and I want to make sure you guys knew this. I didn't explain this. Before I let this van down, there's a washer that goes behind this tensioner, and I was I thought I remember there one being there, and it was actually stuck to the engine. I kind of looked around for it. I was like, man, I don't see that washer. I wonder where it's at. And so in that break there, I got to looking, and anyways, so make sure you get the washer off that tensioner. Now we're going to get rid of this tensioner, and then we're going to reuse this though with the new time belt kit. So make sure you find that washer, okay? All right, so we're going to let it down, take the time belt off from the top, so stay tuned. Okay, here we go. Just going to take it off the camshaft there, take it off the back cam. Of course, you got a power steering hose that gets in your way. You got to monkey it around that. And now we have got the timing belt off of there. So if you see, I got teeth right here, okay? If our timing belt, our new one, wasn't marked, we can make our own marks on it. Or if you're just doing a repair where you're not servicing the timing belt, which I would not advise, I would just go ahead and replace the time belt. What is the time belt? 35 bucks. But anyways, if you're just doing a repair and it doesn't have any marks on it, you're going to want to mark this time belt just to be sure. Yeah, you could go by the marks with the engine. Obviously, we're going to do that. Like what if the time belt shreds and you have to retime it? Well, yeah, you can do it that way. But if you mark the belt, it'll pretty much guarantee you that you'll put it back in the right spot. So let's pretend that we have a belt that is not marked, okay? So we have no marks. It's our brand new belt. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take some white out, okay? Take some white out. I'm just going to make a mark right here. I don't have the arrow pointing forward. I'm going to do my front camshaft because it's the easiest one to get to. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my old belt that I got off, and I'm going to find the front camshaft mark. And now I'm going to count the valleys in between the teeth all the way to the crankshaft. So if I start here, that's 0, then 1, 2, 3, 4, da 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 da, all the way. Let's just say and it says 57. Okay. So now on the new belt, I'm going to get the new belt that doesn't have any marks on it, and I'm going to go to my mark I put on the new belt right here, and I'm going to count. All right, that's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, da 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 da. All the find tooth number 57. Let's say it's right here, and now I'm going to put a mark there, and I know that's for my camshaft. After I do that, I'm probably going to go backwards now, start at this mark again, and now I'm going to work my way backwards and find the one for the rear camshaft. And that is how you put your own marks on, but you got to do it before you remove the timing belt. This is pretty much a foolproof way to make sure that you get your timing belt done, installed correctly the first time. When I was a beginning technician, timing belts and chains were very scary to me. And they still kind of put me on edge sometimes, especially if you're Hondas that have tighter clearances. Toyota is a little bit more forgiving with most of their stuff. Okay, so now I'm going to work on removing the water pump, and we're going to replace the camshaft seals. I'm probably going to remove the valve cover gaskets, remove the idler pulley, and so on. So let's get rolling on it.